All right. Hello, everyone. This is Melissa Schoen, and I'm with my colleague MaryKate Scott, and we're business consultants for FQHCs, and we're here today to talk about the SBA Paycheck Protection Program and to share information as it is hot off the presses here. Today is Friday, April 3rd, and we're going to share with you today what we know of as of today at April 3rd at about 11 a.m. Things are changing very quickly. We'll provide an overview of the Paycheck Protection Program. We'll describe how to calculate the loan. We'll describe how to use the loan fund. And we'll describe a little bit about loan forgiveness. We're going to distinguish between those three areas. They're all different calculations. So we're going to try to be really clear that calculating the loan is different than how you can use the loan fund, and it's different than how you calculate for loan forgiveness. We'll quickly go over some of the loan application processes and talk about the immediate next steps that we're recommending that you take today or as soon as you can. So just a high-level overview, the Paycheck Protection Program, or the PPP, is part of the CARES Act, the stimulus package coming out, $349 billion. And it provides businesses with unsecured forgivable loans. And this is about keeping your payroll and keeping your staff. It also can cover rent, mortgage, and interest, but mortgage, interest, and utilities, but primarily it's to cover payroll. The loan is for the period from February 15th through June 30th, and it's retroactive to February 15th. So if you've laid off workers since February 15th, you can still rehire them and get the loan forgiven. We will talk a little bit about that. And you can apply as a FQHC, you're eligible as a 501c3 if you have less than 500 employees. And note that this is bodies. This is not FTEs. It's 500 employees as a head count. And you can start applying today, April 3rd. And we are strongly recommending that you apply as soon as possible because we are already seeing, as of 11 a.m. on April 3rd, an extremely high demand for these loans. So what is the loan amount that you can get? So it is the lesser of, so less than 2.5 times the average monthly payroll, but it's an eligible payroll amount, and we will go through what that is, what the eligibility is, or 10 million, so whichever is less. It is up to a max of $10 million. The interest is 1% for a 2-year loan. This interest number literally just changed within the last couple of hours. It is 1% for a 2-year loan. But do note that in the CARES bill, it allows up to 4% for 10 years. But as of a few minutes ago, the SBA site said it's a 1% interest for 2 years and no charges or penalties for prepayment. So what is included in your eligible payroll costs? There are the included costs, which we have on the left, less the excluded costs, which is on the right. Those equal your eligible payroll costs for how you calculate your loan amount. The included costs include all the salaries, wages, any commissions. It's doesn't really apply for FQHCs. Time off benefits, so payment for vacation, FMLA, medical, sick leave, your health insurance premiums, your retirement benefits, so your benefits are included in that, and then any other taxes assessed with the compensation. You take from those included costs, you remove the excluded costs. So excluded costs include any compensation for individual employees that is above the annual salary of $100,000. So anything above $100,000, any employee making above $100,000 is removed from that. And note that that includes benefits in that $100,000. So you need to include the calculation of what your benefits are. So compensation is wages plus benefits. You need to take away, if you've gotten any sick leave covered through the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, They don't want you double dipping. You take away any payroll taxes and income taxes, and then any compensation for an employee whose residence was outside of the United States. So that is removed. The included costs minus those excluded costs equals your eligible payroll costs. So I'm going to pass this over to MaryKate, who's going to go through the details of the calculating.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. So this is MaryKate Scott. So we're on step one, which is calculating your loan amount. And to calculate this, you either get your trailing 12 months of your payroll, or you could use payroll for 2019. You determine your total number of employees. As Melissa pointed out, these are people. And then you separate employees that are compensated under $100,000 versus over $100,000. So that is wages plus benefit. So if someone is getting $90,000 in salary and over $10,000 in benefits, they would be in the over $100,000 pool. So you will separate your employees into the under and the over. What you will do for the under $100,000, you will determine this monthly payroll, and then you will multiply by 2.5 months. We call that amount A. Your second group are employees over $100,000 in compensation. You could do the calculation around what's the monthly and so forth, but the answer is simple. It is $20,833. 20,833 is the maximum allowable to determine your loan amount. So you will take compensation for the under 100,000 employees and the over. You will then add amount A and amount B, and this is what you can apply for. And when you apply, you will need to have the documentation of your payroll. So let's talk about the second different part, which is how can loan funds be used. You can use them for payroll costs. You can use them for group health care benefits, paid sick medical family leave. You can also, in a separate bucket, use them for a mortgage interest payment, rent, if the lease was in operation prior to February 15th, 2020, utilities, heat, light, water, internet, and phone, and interest on debt obligations. So you could use up to 100% on payroll, but the most you could use on your rent and utilities, that section, is 25%. This is designed to be able to cover you for 8 weeks of payroll. And yes, to calculate the loan, it was 2.5 months, which is 10.5 weeks. But you use loan funds for 8 weeks of payroll, and the remaining money could go to either additional payroll, additional people, or it could go to the rent and utilities. So let's talk about number 3, which is loan forgiveness. And forgiveness is based on maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining employed hours and compensation levels. So your loan will be forgiven if it's used for the eligible purposes during the 8 weeks following the start of the loan. So once the loan starts, in other words, the date it's signed, you start your 8-week, and in those 8 weeks, you can be forgiven for paying all of the payroll, the sick leave, the benefits, and so forth. And then you can also get forgiven up to 25% of the loan for things like your rent, mortgage interest, or utility. So as we think about loan forgiveness, the amount of the loan forgiveness can be reduced, and therefore you would repay the loan if there's a reduction in the number of employees or a reduction of wages. So if you decrease your headcount, in other words, in that 8-week period versus the previous year, if you lower your full-time employee hours to part-time, you can lower them to 75% and still be forgiven, but below 75% of full-time, that would not be forgiven. You have until June 30th, 2020 to restore your full-time employment and salary levels. So in other words, at June 30th, you will then determine how many employees you have and what their hours are. So if you have already laid off employees, you will not be penalized if you hire them back. So it would be helpful here, we think, to give you an example when a loan would not receive full forgiveness. And our example here is, let's say you have determined that your loan calculation is $3 million and you've applied for a $3 million loan. And you have, say, an average of 100 employees now in 2020. However, you had 120 in 2019. In other words, you have fewer now versus more in 2019. In this case, you would multiply the loan by the current number of employees divided by the previous number of employees, 120 in this example, and you would get 2.5 million in forgiveness, not 3 million. And the rest of the money would be repaid at the 1% interest rate over 2 years. So it's going to be very important to track your loan forgiveness. And after you secure your loan, you will need to keep track of the total compensation, so that's all the wages and all the benefits for each employee and the percentage of hours worked, if they're not full-time, for this specific 8-week period to receive the loan forgiveness. Loan forgiveness comes from your lender. And so we recommend tracking by person in 2 groups, separating those compensated over and under 100,000, and then you'll track total that was paid, including benefits and if part-time, and the percentage. Again, you can use up to 100% of the loan on payroll, or you could use 75% on payroll and up to 25% on the other expenses. And without stating the obvious, important to note, you can't get forgiven more than you were loaned. And so you must apply through your lender for forgiveness on the loan. And in this application, you need to provide documentation on the number of employees. And that could be a report run through your payroll, and it must match what you claim to the IRS. And the documentation verifying payments on covered obligations for mortgages, leases, and utilities. You will have to have a certification from your representative authorized to certify that the documentation is true and the amount being forgiven will be used in accordance with the guidelines.
Thanks, MaryKate. So let me just go over the loan application information. It's a fairly simple form, the sample that the SBA has. You will get your loan application through your bank. We are guessing, given the very fast turnaround, that the majority of the banks are going to use the exact form that the SBA and the Treasury Department has, which is a pretty simple form. But on that form, on the loan application, it's fairly simple. You do not need to establish that your organization is unable to secure other loans. This is unlike other SBA loans. No collateral is required. No personal guarantees, and you don't need to show credit worthiness or ability to pay. The key criteria for whether you are eligible for this is, were you in business as of February 15th, 2020 and paying your employees? Once the loan payments do not start and can be deferred for up to 6 months, note that the interest is still accruing, that 1% interest would still accrue, but it cannot be deferred, payments cannot be deferred for more than 1 year. And the loan is a 2-year loan. There's no penalties or fees for any kind of prepayment. So also on the loan application, the borrower needs to certify that this is necessary due to the current economic uncertainty, that the funds are really primarily to retain workers. And this is the primary purpose of the PPP loan. You have to certify that you've not received other funds under the program, and you're not double dipping. That is a big issue. You can get other loan funds, but not the same PPP, and not use it for the same thing. And then you just have to certify it's true and accurate. Again, all of this needs to align with all your tax documentations, and you need to certify that too. So one question that we have received And I took this directly from the PPP fact sheet from the Treasury Department. You can get other loans, and some of the, like the EIDL loan, the 7A loans, but you cannot, so you can get those loans and apply for a PPP loan. You just cannot use the PPP loan purposes as your other loan. So if you're doing the economic injury disaster loan and using it to pay payroll, you cannot also use your PPP loan for payroll. So there's clear guidance that they do not want to have any kind of double dipping. So next step, what we recommend, and doing this as soon as possible, we recommend, because this is a first come, first serve process, and we have heard already this morning that demand is extremely high. Many people know about this. A lot of people are applying. First and foremost, contact your bank. Your bank may have already contacted you. If you have a good relationship with your bank, we know of banks that are reaching out to F2HCs. Many banks are participating in this, and they are reaching out to F2HCs. Work with your bank. If you have a good relationship with them, that is the way you want to go. And many banks are also saying we will only do this for people we work with. Find out if they are participating in the program and use their loan form. We are, as I said before, it's likely they're going to be using the federal form. We do have a link in this presentation at the end with the 100 most largest SBA lenders. You can try to reach out to some of those if for some reason your bank isn't participating, but we really recommend trying your own bank first. Get the necessary information and documents. Get all the payroll costs. We understand some of the large payroll systems like ADP are already helping health centers run reports, and they're separating out those employees that are making $100,000 or more. Some of the like ADP already has reports that are doing that. So work with your payroll vendor if you can, and get documentation on your payroll costs. And don't forget about benefits as well, health insurance and benefits. See the document we shared about all the information you need to calculate this. Needed, the NAICS code for an F2HC is there on the slide, 621498, that's the code. And then complete the application form. Again, we recommend doing this as soon as possible. There are definitely calculations involved, but on the form, as we said, it's the calculating the loan amount, not the loan forgiveness. It's the loan amount that you need to calculate at this point. We have our contact information here. We are available for some questions. Accountants, and we don't have that kind of experience, but we can help answer some quick questions for you if that's helpful. And then we also have a few links here at the end that might be helpful for you. So thank you very much. We wish you luck. Thank you for everything you're doing for your communities, for our communities, and for your work on the front lines. We know this is an incredibly challenging time, and we are so appreciative of everything that you all are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.